Right.
Yeah, why
Right. They don't want that. You know?
Because that's really what has happened.
In order to get
you go back, you
in
go
order
back
to get
there,
this.
you go back there, you're living in a
Yeah.
hut.
Yeah. You devolve. Yeah, you're gonna be able to have phone and whatever like that. Yeah, you know. Yeah. But if you're coming with the mentality of you're conscious from here to over there, then you're not going over there about trying to be in no apartment or a house or nothing like that. You're trying to go into some woods or whatever and build your stuff.
Yeah, they don't want that.
But they're not going there with no tractors or nothing like that. They're going there to, you know, oh yeah, going to kiss the ground and back home and all that type of stuff. And people are looking at them like, what are you doing? You're not from here. You can see by your features you're not from here or whatever. Africans will tell you.
And that's obvious too. That's another thing I was observing too, because they have a heavier African, so-called African, excuse my, you know what I mean, parlance, community there. The phenotype, completely different.
Completely different.
You can see a man who comes
from the continent,
and a man who comes from.
You pick a country.
You can see them.
Straight up.
I'm just saying, you walk around and you're like,
hey, you're not from here.
Straight
they could be darker than you, right?
That don't matter.
No, I know.
Facial structure.
Yeah, that's
crazy, eh? And that, you know what?
Ain't no
And that's what
straight.
came to me too on this weekend trip. I realized that that's where I think the two phenotypes are. That's from the father and the son.
Yeah.
That was it. Those were the two bloodlines.
Right.
That's where when we looked at the one with Wesley Snipes there, the whole vampire thing, which was really about the bloodlines.
Yeah.
It was really, these are the two bloodlines, right? This is the father and the son right here, right?
Yeah. King Alfred Plant Energy. In 1954, this was the issue of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues were raised in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation of the world
Go back there again. Read that.
Although the so-called moral issues were raised in view of the law of natural selection.
Stop. See, that one right there cuts me. What you see is he said, read it one more time, that one thing.
Although the so-called moral issues were raised in the view of the law of natural selection.
Which to me means that every man who has his rights and his abilities gets to grow in those.
Right.
And what they're saying right there is that the moral arguments about that, which are we should let people live and do what they want to do,
right.
They're saying we're against that
Right.
in that statement. Right?
Now, and then why? Because it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence
That's what I'm saying.
are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such a people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent.
So that statement right there explains everything that's going on, right? But it also says that they're using the fact that they say that we're not using our intelligence, which is really what we're not doing.
Yeah.
But really with a lot of help from them. Well, sort of and not really sort of, which is kind of crazy too, right?
Because it's not like they're,
Go ahead.
it's not like they're lying.
But how did the Moors get into that situation in the first place?
Well, you know what's interesting is listening to one thing with, I think it was Raz, and they were saying that it was the son of the Sultan, who supposedly, I think, was one of the Ishmael or whatever, the son, whoever it was, he signed, they were looking for him because they were talking about the 50-year renewal coming up, and that the 50-year renewal really isn't about renewing it, it's really about whether we want to keep it going every 50 years and whether we want changes. And what's happened is we've been sucked out of that.
Out of the decision making.
Out of the decision making by lowering us. But what they also had done was that there were tributes that were supposed to be being paid every year. And there's some comment that Raz talks about, some literature where they actually have a letter to the Sultan begging them about the $20,000 per, which back then would have been huge, about them accepting the tribute to keep them doing their stuff here. So what I'm saying in answer to that is I got this sense that I saw a couple of these, you know, like crooked show Moors sort of sitting there and maybe someone running up with some money and just making one of those lower decisions at the time. And just like, so what I'm saying is that a couple of brothers who were up there who had the decision making for us just probably just being sold, being you know, that classic sort of being bought. It was here. It was here. They were talking, that's what it was connecting with the Paris here, which you keep thinking was the Paris Agreement, which was happening over there. But what they're saying was the Paris Agreement was happening here, and the statement is about them rushing to find the Emir's son to sign off on this because the father was dead, and they were trying to get the son to agree because a lot of the other regencies were saying, get these guys out of here, get these guys out of here, get these guys out of here, and they were looking to find ways. And as I said, I can see in my mind's eye, maybe them throwing a couple of girls, you know how they would do it today, a couple of girls, a couple of.
To who they throwing the girls to? Who?
To the Amir's son.
But he's here though.
He's here, not there. Here.
He's here.
So
where is he? Right now.
Where would he be now? Where that bloodline would be? Who knows where that particular bloodline would be? But that's part of it. But the bloodline then gets disseminated to all of us, being part of the bloodline.
But it also goes over to the other side too, right?
Because well, of course, there's that connection there.
Interbreeding, right? So interbreeding, they're not for our best interests.
Right.
Well, that's right.
But again, it still goes back to superior and subordinate,
right?
Magistrate and subject.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know the creditor debtor.
Master slave.
Right, master slave. Right, or master servant. Once the slaves realize that they're not the slaves, they're the masters, which is what the whole thing about the nationality is supposed to be, then everybody else who's been pretending that the slave is the master, they're gonna change their tune automatic when they realize that the power shifted from the wrong people back to the right people. They'll get on board. No different than
what you're saying, what you're really saying is that the right people who initially had this when the shit was going down, some of them didn't make the rightest decisions. That's why at the end of the day, you can blame them for it, who are really our mutilated brothers.
They're the sellouts, it's not, I'll be honest.
That's right.
Right, exactly.
The Albion was just doing what was...
Everybody's pointing
right to
there.
the Albion, right.
You're supposed to be looking right there.
That was part of the game too. That was part of the game too.
That's the issue.
That was part of the game too, because they keep you going back into their house.
Right.
Keep getting some decision making.
But again, once they do that, right? Then they just give up the power again. Just like the UCC people. As soon as you go to that guy saying, well, you have to authenticate this. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying.
We'll authenticate it. And then they're leaving like, yeah, they did it. It's my Moorish name. They did. No, you just sold your stuff back to them again. You know what I mean? When you're supposed to be severing the ties from them. You're not supposed to be talking about, 50 years old and you still have umbilical cord attached to your mom. You have to sever. If you don't sever, then that's a crutch.
You still want that definition?
Authenticate.
It doesn't even have it has authentication.
No, sure, we'll go with that.
In the law of evidence, the act or mode of giving authority or legal authenticity to a statute.
Right there. So in the law of evidence, when they say, can you authenticate the birth certificate? Right? They have the birth certificate now saying that, yeah, I have the birth certificate, they authenticated it. But in the law of evidence.
So wait, I just wanted to give you, because what's told to me was they were taking it out of a de jure place and putting it back into another encapsulated place. The law of evidence is its own body, right? The law of evidence is its own area, right? The law of evidence isn't something that's out there. The law of evidence is a body of work. Right? That it's a jurisdiction. So they're putting you in a jurisdiction called the law of evidence. So go on though, what were you saying?
If you have a legit...
Right, that should be part of it is what you're saying. Yeah. Okay,
so the law of evidence applies.
So go on.
Continue on.
Law of evidence.
The act or mode of giving authority or legal authenticity to a statute, record, or other written instrument, or a certified copy thereof, so as to render it legally admissible in evidence.
Wow,
that's
crazy.
So the act of.
The act, so which makes it?
The act of.
Right.
So you go get something authenticated, that's an act.
Right.
That just took place.
Right. Which has to do with statutes and ordinances.
Acts aren't real. So if acts aren't real, why you even go that route?
So you're acting like you're real.
You're acting like you're a secured creditor. You're not really a secured creditor because it's dead everywhere. You're acting like they just authenticated whatever. They didn't authenticate nothing. That stuff's bankrupt. They're bankrupt. Seal that they're using been bankrupt since 1930, but you want that bankrupt seal on your document to prove that it has authenticity.
But through what he mentioned too was the certification process, which we understand to mean that there's something behind that, right? It says to certify, right, at the end of it? Does it not say that?
What was it?
Read it, the sort of,
Just run it one more time.
In the law, the act or mode of giving authority or legal authenticity to a statute, record, or other written instrument, or a certified copy.
certified
thereof.
copy. All right, so to me, the certified copy, yet again, is talking about the certification, right? Which is someone having that ability to certify something, right?
Right.
So who is that, who's certifying that? Who was,
Exactly.
right?
The individual who's certifying,
Right.
they're bankrupt and insolvent
That's
since
right.
1933.
That's right.
So,
There can be no basis for that certification.
so there's no basis for it.
Right.
Not only that, how come the people who created the birth certificate didn't authenticate it
Right.
when they created it?
That's right. And then not only that, another thing that spoke to me, which speaks back to the old days, which is they were talking about a statute or a written statement. And to me, the written statement broke down to writ, which is what we use, which is what we talk about when we're doing spells and spelling, right? So when you spell something or throw out a spell, and then someone certifies it or authenticates it, it gives it validity or power. That power is still coming through the bodies, first of all, the one that's writing it, and the one that's authenticating it.
And majority of time, unless you're Obashango L, who's writing a 180-page writ to go with your UCC filing that you're majority of people filling out a form, which they didn't write.
That's right.
Okay.
So who's working the spell?
Right. That's right.
And then they got so put your name in boxes on
This
there.
is
and
another
then
thing
they-
that spoke to
then
you
they
too,
go
right?
get what's
You
going on.
get a piece of paper that has any kind of, has anything written that stops you from being able to go where you need to go, you're then controlled.
Right.
Right, the boxes.
And again, we
They're
don't want
leading the
people to
way.
get into this thing about we're saying it don't work and
No,
we know that it works.
I didn't say that. That's
We know that it works. We know that you can go through that process, but you're not going through that process for nationality. You're not going through that process for get some account or whatever like that. You're going through that process to sever your tie from the straw. Because if you make a claim on it, you have to put who's making the claim. So when you make the claim that, this is my property because I've been putting my whatever in it, you're supposed to now take it, since you made the claim on it, and beat it to death. Bury it. You're not supposed to be, oh, now that I have it, because you're claiming that you have nothing to do with it. That's what the UCC is. You're saying that I don't have nothing to do with this, I'm drawing a line between me and that thing. But then you're going to take that thing that you're drawing the line between you and yourself, you put a brick wall between you and something, and now you're climbing over the wall to go get the stuff, to climb back over the wall to go use it over here.
You're just making it
When you just built a wall for you to keep yourself away from
You
that
just
thing,
smash the wall down.
right?
You
No, I'm saying
But you-
I'm saying what you've done by doing that is you've just broken that wall. By jumping over it to grab that thing, you have validated everything and basically tore that wall
Yeah,
down.
the wall's there still.
Well, the wall's still.
But even once you go to use it, once you go to validate that thing that you said that you
No,
didn't.
this is after the validation.
You're saying this
It's
is
already
Oh,
validated.
yeah, so this is the
You're saying
point.
this is after the point, but you're saying that you
Look.
just. You're saying this is after the point that you created the wall.
This is,
I'm so sorry.
no worries, no worries.
I'm so
Yeah, let us.
Yeah, let's slide over right here. Huh?
To the feeling
Peace, family, sorry.
This is all good, sis.
You want to go back in? I thought that's where the strollers went, right?
Yeah,
Where's it going?
yeah, just in case he makes noise and I can
Yeah.
just.
He's good. Make all the noise you want.
I'm not used to being up here. I'm gonna get a nose in.
We read everything for it.
You're in the little section.
Oh, you did, man.
No, you're saying you created the wall,
Yeah.
but once you jump over, so I'm saying you created the wall that separated yourself from that.
Yeah,
But then
so,
you jump
so
over.
once you create the wall, you should be walking away from the wall,
Right,
right?
but once you jump over that wall and grab it again, then you've now tied yourself back.
Right.